All right, welcome to Pause at the Well weekly soul guidance reading. Maria from Bloom, Angela from Grounded Dreamers. Happy post Easter. Yeah, so let's presence into the space with a moment of pause, breathing in, grounding in the earth, and settling into the moment and opening up to the reading that's coming through today. Right.
Okay, so today we're going to tackle big moments, big shifts, big realizations, maybe major conflict, depending. But the lead card here is tsunami, wake up call. This is, it's may be happening in your life now. It may be happening within you. Like there's new realizations that, oh my gosh, the way I've been doing this is not working anymore. I really have to make a shift here. It could be an outer conflict or an outer realization in your life, or it could be just a template for you to know for if something like this arises, one way to work through it. Okay, so that's our lead card is tsunami. And then from there, I pulled intensity. So they kind of go together, right? When this sudden epiphany or sudden realization comes, maybe somebody else kind of says, I can't do it like this anymore. I'm doing this now. Goodbye, or whatever. It could be a real wake-up call in a relationship that intensifies your experience, your emotions around it. And like I said, you could be the tsunami too. You could be the one calling out for the change, or for the shining a spotlight on something that needs to be addressed. Okay, so that kind of intensity is where we start the reading. Then the next card I pulled, it's like immediately telling us, don't give up, push through the insecurities. That intensity and the tsunami creates vulnerability. It creates feelings of insecurity and vulnerability. And right, and we get to the point where sometimes we just want to like run and hide from it, but this is kind of calling us not to do that, even if it means just stopping for a minute
and staying with
a breath.
Yeah,
Taking a big breath, right?
Yeah.
Find your alignment, find the space that you occupy, make sure that you are tuned in to what's within you in this intense situation, and honor that. And then I got defend, the scorpion. And this is kind of saying, it doesn't mean lash out. It doesn't mean be aggressive, but stand your ground, right? You've taken the time to realign by taking that breath, taking that pause. And now you get to say, okay, I'm clear. This is what I need. This is where I stand. And then this is calling for you to just hold that for yourself, hold that space for yourself. And then I got acceptance. I'm learning to accept the things I cannot change. This sounds very, it's a very spiritual move, right? To just let it be, whatever that tsunami was, whatever that thing was, allow it to be. You're breathing through it, you're pushing through your insecurities, but you're also in a reality that may or may not be the way you've wanted it to be, the way you see it, but just accept what is first. Then you can determine how to go from there. And then I pulled growth, all of this practice, all of this coming up against a conflict and then saying, okay, I'm going to work through my insecurity. I'm going to be with it. I'm going to let it be there. And I'm going to breathe through this, stand my ground, find a way forward. That is growth right there. I want to expand my consciousness and my awareness and, self-awareness and your high consciousness perspective on things, the way you see things in a new way. That's the growth that you see. And then from there, I got movement, the river. And that's when you've come to the moment of acceptance, you get to flow forward with the new path, or I accept the way things are, and now I can see maybe I can go forward in this direction instead of that direction, and maybe that's where the flow is moving more forward for you. So those are the first set of cards.
From tsunami to flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. From tsunami to river,
Yeah.
tsunami wake up call to river movement. Look at those two cards. And
Yeah.
from the moon to the sun.
Yeah.
Wow. Right? Yeah.
And just the action of the water, it's big and confusing,
Burly.
and here it's just
Chaotic.
calm and moving in its natural state.
Yeah. Yeah. So from chaos to flow, from dangerous and scary and destructive to, serene and flow. So acceptance, I think, is the bridge too,
Yeah.
And also what was so beautiful in group before this was one of the participants brought in the post-traumatic growth concept, which I love, right? So the tsunami is like potentially that traumatizing, destructive force, right? And out of that is growth potentially, right? The river and the flow, the healing that we do, the resilience that we cultivate from things that we've been through that we might designate as traumatic, right? Post-traumatic growth is what this space is all about.
100%. And a lot of times we stop it at the conflict or at the trauma, and we stop there.
That's
and
right.
we don't allow for our growth from it. And that's where we suppress, or we ignore, or we
cut off.
Yeah, we cut off. But 100%, if you are willing to pause and wait for the growth, or work through this in a new way so that the growth will come, it will come. Yeah.
Absolutely. I listened to this beautiful teaching by Carolyn Miss the other day about the victimhood of overwhelm. She was talking about the archetype of the victim, and she was talking about the relationship to overwhelm. And it makes me think about this. We can be victimized by that tsunami's overwhelm, or I was talking about this in group 2, or we can get inside the tsunami and ride it like a surfer rides a tube, right?
Move with
it. And that becomes the post-traumatic growth, that becomes the river. Yeah, so beautiful. So just want to invite everyone to pause and just take a moment to be with this distinction we're making. And just take a moment and feel into your own life, and where in your life could acceptance allow for a shift for you? From victimhood to flow and growth. Yeah, beautiful. So let's move into the second part.
Okay, so now we get this, now we have this movement, right, from the river.
Yeah.
We were, with the willingness to welcome in the growth.
Yeah.
Now we get to move to a higher perspective. Yeah.
Right. Because if we resist it, right, what we resist persists. It's a cliche, but it's true.
So, yeah. So we've made the decision to allow for the flow instead.
Yeah.
And we start out with perspective. It all boils down to, or much of it boils down to, the way you approach it, the way you see it, your beliefs around it. It could be around this exact, literal situation that's happening, or around just the concept of moving through trauma. It's perspective. And this is a very simplistic piece of advice, right? It just shift your perspective. It's not easy to execute. As humans, we have a lot of entanglement with our emotions, with our past, with our resentments, with our needs. I need it to be this way. So as simple of a concept as this is, it may not be easy, but it is worthwhile. Shift your perspective, find that new vantage point from which to see it. And
from
one
a new
way
paradigm.
New paradigm.
Paradigm, right? The paradigm that you're in determines the perspective that you have.
And it's what you're creating. You're creating it from
100%.
your outlook, from the thoughts become things. And one way to shift that perspective is through gratitude, right? See the rainbow instead of the rain, or know while it's raining and storming, the rainbow's on its way. Just know it, right? That attitude, that we have of it's not here yet, or, that's defeating, instead of, I know, I've been through this trauma and I know I'll be okay. So let's move on toward that being okay. It's a shift in your awareness. And sometimes that comes from just experience of having hit after hit after hit, and then kind of going, okay, I've survived all that. I know I can survive it going forward. Sometimes it's just with time and experience.
Yeah.
But this shift can be made, from an early age, and then help with the flow of your life. And then I pulled receptivity, and that's the willingness to stay open. So the shift in perspective involves shifting to a gratitude mindset and staying open to what comes next, staying open to what the universe is showing you as far as how to proceed. It may be bringing you different choices. Maybe you're in, sort of feeling overwhelmed, and then you meet a new person that has just a totally different way of approaching it. And instead of dismissing it and going, oh, they're wrong, whatever, listen to that. Maybe the universe put that person in your path to help you create a new, a new vision, a new way to go forward.
Right. And to see a new perspective, to grasp a new perspective.
Grasp a new perspective that can facilitate your growth, that could really help you to grow. And
noticing the blessings in that, even if you might be resisting a shift, right? The blessings was the card that the rainbow card was blessings. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then from there, I pulled empathy. I am open to seeing both sides in a situation. That's all that is, right? That's all it, and that doesn't mean I do it 100% of the time and I'm always going to be totally, it's staying open to it, just being open to it, right? That's all it takes is opening that window and letting that flow start. And this could also be toward yourself too. Like we said earlier with the tsunami, this could be something within you that's at odds, and being able to sort of massage that into a new way of moving forward within yourself. It could all be inner work is what I'm saying, this whole spread. And then that empathy would be toward yourself, toward the old way of doing it, and knowing that we evolve, we change, and you can too. And then from there, I pulled moment to moment. This is a part we're familiar with, one of our favorites, right?
Yeah,
it's reminding us in this openness of the receptivity card, and while we're seeking a new perspective, stay in the moment, right? Don't jump too far ahead, and don't cling too much to those things that are past. Be in, like I always like to say, spiritually, have your feet under you, right under you. Don't move ahead of the energy, and know that the support is coming. And the support is always there, and it will appear when you need it. And then I got the rebel, and this is your chance to, now that you've shifted perspective, you've realigned, you're focusing on gratitude, you are now more empowered than ever, right? And doing it your way and your way alone, which is really the only way possible for you. Not the only way possible, but the smoothest way possible for you is sticking, that reminds me of that defend card, sticking to who you are,
and breaking the chains. I see chains on there, breaking those
chains, right? Yeah. He's leading the way with his torch, right? Yeah. And it's like, nope, I'm gonna do it my way. So a reminder, but there's no aggression to that. It's more just a confident knowing within.
Yeah.
And then I got go now. So this is like after the work we've done and the perspective shift we've experienced, now you get to take it on the road, right?
Yeah.
You move forward in this.
He's got his torches too.
Yeah, he's leading the way as well. I love that. They're both symbolized by the torch, two different decks. I love it when those alignments come. And then our last card is be proud of yourself, right? And this is now an opportunity, like we did last week, to just take a moment, pause into it, and assess how far you've come in this growth. If you've been with the Pause at the Well group for a while, we've all seen your growth. if you're just, starting out on this journey of self-improvement, of evolving, of active evolving, be proud of yourself that you made that decision, right?
Mhm.
There's always a reason to celebrate your choices.
Mhm.
And that's just a reminder there at the end that, that acknowledgement and that pride, I guess, the act of feeling good about how far you've come leads to more, will always lead to more growth.
Beautiful. Yeah, so let's take a moment again to pause and do exactly that. Just invite everyone to celebrate your growth. Take a moment to first assess it. What's one thing you're proud of about your experience, about your growth, about where you've come to? And take a moment to really honor that blessing. Yeah. And so it is. Make sure to set your intentions and have a beautiful week.